Up next, Framelines features an up-and-coming filmmaker who's already amassed a body of work.
Marcus and I, we were attached to the 1st Infantry Division. You know, round up any POWs, assistant transfers. And we're making the push up to Qasr. It's Tuesday morning. Some of the most amazing sunrises and sunsets you'll ever see. In nighttime, just stars from one end of the sky to the other. So Marcus and I were called up to the front of the line. You don't think about it beforehand. You know which one you're going to take. You just don't think about it before.
When I went to college, my plan was actually to do audio production. I went to Austin thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I decided I would try to get into the film courses, which were even more difficult to get into. I went to Florida State Graduate Film Conservatory. So after graduate school, I was doing more indie cinematography. I decided I would move back out to LA. I got a phone call saying, hey, from a friend of mine who knew that I always wanted to teach at the college level. Said, hey, we've got this sort of summer position open for a couple classes. Do you want to come down here to Florida, to Miami, Florida, and teach? And I was going through a dry period as a freelancer in LA. And I said, let's do it. My wife got a tenure track position at Ohio State. I moved down here, and that brought me to Ohio, where I've been here 10 years. So, you know, I got to Ohio, I had this position at Denison, and I started teaching. And I still had this, there was still this residual, I'm making movies, I'm working, but I'm not making my own films. And once I started teaching, really got back into, okay, it's time for me to be a filmmaker again. It's time for me to start making movies. And so I made this film called Waiting for the Sky to Fall, this short film, the first thing I shot in Ohio.
I love this song.
Me too.
What's it called?
Harry's. I'm telling you, they make the best late night breakfast.
That sounds good to me. The lady at the motel said everything around here shut down by 10.
I guess you're lucky you met me tonight.
I gotta tell you though, it is ways off 16.
That's all right. I'm headed that way anyway. That's the way I see it. 2 a.m. is just the start of a new day.
All right then, let's go.
Let's go.
I made it for a couple reasons, one of which was for my students. I wanted to teach my students how to make a film on a professional level. And so I brought them in as crew. I wrote the story, I wrote the script, I directed, I DP'd. While casting for Waiting for the Sky to Fall, I ended up working with this local actor named John Osbeck, and we had a great working relationship together. I was about to finish the short, and he called me up and said, hey Mark, let's go have a beer. I want to talk to you about something. I said, okay. And he said, look, I've got this idea for this feature. I was wondering if you would shoot it for me. I was going to come on as the cinematographer and sort of help him through this process. He loved it. I was excited about it, and so we started into pre-production on making this feature, -1. The story is totally his. It's about a group of guys that get shipped off to the Middle East to fight. And it was really about, not a movie about war, but a movie about how war affects the people who get shipped off and the people who are left behind. John and I worked together extremely well. We were both, I think, respectful of each other's opinions. And frankly, because we were shooting digitally, we could do 5 takes. You know, I'm proud of the film. It was something that, it was never my film because it was John's story, but certainly at some point in the process, I really felt like it was my film. I really became invested in it. And we've taken it to a number of festivals, we won a number of awards, and I'm proud of it. It's not the perfect film, but I think what it does pretty well. It's certainly something that I'm proud of, even though it wasn't mine. And I had this short, which ended up being called My Dearest Love, which is about an Indian woman who's about to get married. Completely inspired by being out in the desert, staying in this straw bale domed B&B, this crazy sort of called Eve's Garden, and they had this stained glass window on the wall, and I'd been listening to some music, and I was looking at this stained glass window, and just started writing, came up with this sort of idea. I did a follow-up to that, which is actually an animated piece called Summer, because I knew I wanted to do something that was animated. I wanted to branch out from what I had been doing. From that, I decided I would keep this ball rolling, and then do another piece, also set to music. This is a time-lapse piece that I ended up doing, called This Too Shall Pass. And then there'll be a fourth piece, which will be stop animation, which is something that I've always loved. Again, from my childhood, I think about the Sinbad movies, and I think about the skeleton or the dinosaurs, you know, anything that had that stop motion movement to it. And so I wanted to do something like that too. So I'm going to make a fourth film, which will be all stop motion animation. When my students from Denison graduate who want to go into production, they always sort of think about where they want to move after they graduate. And the question is always, do I go to New York or do I go to LA? I tell them all the same thing. There's production everywhere. Columbus is a totally fine place to go. New York City is a totally fine place to go. North Carolina, I mean, you can really, there are these filmmaking communities everywhere. And as the tools get better and better and become more and more available, the films get better and better. Not because the tools make the films, but because those tools allow people to practice, 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 practice.